Today we're going to talk about the most controversial medical issue of our time, attention deficit disorder, ADD, which is also called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The hallmark symptoms are short attention span, distractibility, disorganization, and often problems with restlessness and impulse control. Everyone has an opinion about it. It's a myth, it's a fad, it's an excuse for bad behavior. You should take medicine for it. You shouldn't take medicine for it. Yet, when it is left untreated, it can devastate a person's life and the lives of those they love.
When we first met, I actually thought ADD was nonsense. It was just a reason to fail or be lazy. And as we talked, you actually thought I had it, which was absurd because I did well in school and had a successful career. But as you described it, I knew my mother had it. I totally knew my uncle had it, and I could see that I had certain traits. I had to work out every day for 2 hours just to feel normal. And disorganization tended to follow me.
Yes, I don't think you ever met a cabinet door you actually wanted to close. And because many people with ADD are highly creative, you taught our puppy Aslan to close them after you.
There are different levels of ADD. For someone with mild ADD like me, organization can be an issue. But for someone with more severe ADD like my uncle, they often self-medicate with drugs or alcohol to settle the restlessness they feel. And many ADD women unconsciously use drama-filled relationships to stimulate themselves.
Having treated thousands of patients with ADD and having raised 3 ADD kids, I know it is a family disorder. There can be lots of love in ADD families, but there can also be a lot of chaos.
Growing up in my ADD home, there was nonstop drama. It was like there was a white tiger hiding around every corner, and you never knew when something bad was going to bite you. Even though my mother tried really hard, I was often left alone and afraid because she had to work 3 low-income jobs so we could survive. We moved a lot, and my uncle was in and out of our lives, causing problems with his drug addiction.
When ADD is left untreated, the consequences are alarming. 33% never finish high school, 3 times the national average, so they end up in jobs that do not pay well. According to one study from Harvard, 52% of people with untreated ADD abuse drugs or alcohol. ADD is associated with a higher incidence of obesity, depression, job failure, incarceration, divorce, and even Alzheimer's disease. These are not just statistics. Our clinics are filled with people who have struggled every day of their lives, at school, in their relationships, and at work. The personal internal terror and shame of being out of control, year after year after year, tears at them and everyone around them. Plus, having ineffectively treated ADD is very expensive, as people go to doctor after doctor trying multiple medications. And the shocking reality is a lot of people don't know if they have ADD, and even if they do know, most are unaware about what causes it and how naturally and easily it can be treated. But the good news is it doesn't have to be that way. We have seen thousands of transformational stories and have solutions that can radically improve you and your loved ones' lives.
This program will be divided into 3 parts. In part 1, we will talk about some of the myths and misconceptions about ADD and why we prefer the term ADD instead of ADHD. Plus, we'll help you know if you or a loved one has it.
In part 2, we'll discuss the 7 different types of ADD and what to do for each of them. Based on our brain imaging work with over 20,000 ADD patients, we've seen that it is clearly not one thing in the brain. And here's the problem. The traditional treatments that work well for 2 of the types often make the other 5 types worse. For example, one boy with ADD, who you'll meet, became aggressive on a commonly prescribed stimulant. He did dramatically better on a group of natural supplements.
And in part 3, we'll give you our method for healing ADD, including the best natural treatments. We're not opposed to using medication, but we think it's smart to start with lifestyle and natural treatments first. In some cases, all you may need to do is change what you're eating.
We start every presentation about ADD by talking about its strengths. People with ADD are often highly intelligent, creative, spontaneous, and successful, like Tana and her mother, who owns her own thriving company.
It was thought that Thomas Edison had ADD. An Olympian, Michael Phelps, was formally diagnosed with it. Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw and Grammy winner Justin Timberlake have talked openly about having ADD in interviews.
People with ADD often think outside of the box, and it is well known that many CEOs have ADD and that they tend to be risk takers, but they thrive when they have people who help keep them on track.
People with ADD often make wonderful writers, artists, entertainers, and salespeople. There's a high incidence of people with ADD among certain professions, such as ER doctors and firefighters. They tend to be people like me who run toward fires.
As opposed to people like me who run away from them and call 911. People with ADD also tend to choose highly stimulating jobs because they need the excitement or drama in order to pay attention.
When we first met, I was working in a level A trauma center as an ICU nurse, where we saw the worst accident victims. That would certainly qualify as a high drama job.
Of the 500 or so ADD physicians we've seen as patients at the Amen clinics, nearly 60% of them were emergency room doctors. ERs are highly stimulating places. We have not seen one ADD dermatologist.